Hey guys, it's Courtney here from flynnknit. Today I wanted to share with you a couple of the stitches used to create the fisherman's rib pattern. And the fisherman's rib is a rib stitch, but it creates a much thicker, more textured fabric than maybe a traditional rib would. And right here I have an example of my Holy Squish cowl that uses fisherman's rib. And it's so big and squishy, I can't even fit it all in here, but I really want to focus on how those stitches look for the rib. So you can see how those knit stitches here are really elevated in fisherman's rib, and then the purl stitches are kind of form these valleys. So it's kind of these ridges and valleys and just a nice, thick, awesome texture. And that texture is created by two different stitches, which is knit one below and purl one below. So I wanted to show you how to do those two stitches. So I'll meet you back here in a second with my example. All right, so here we are, and I am just starting out with a few rows of some basic ribbing, just so I can show you how to get into those knit one below and purl one below stitches. You will need some sort of foundation, whatever your pattern calls for, whether it starts with ribbing or just some knit stitches or whatever it might be, but I want to focus today on those two stitches. It can be a little tricky if you're just starting out, but once you get into it, you'll get the hang of it, okay? So the first stitch I want to show you is knit one below, okay? So traditionally, if you're going to do a knit stitch, you would just knit into the stitch that's on your needle, okay? This stitch, and you would knit it. But if we're doing knit one below, we're going to find the stitch that is below that knit stitch. So it's kind of that first opening on your little ladder, you know, that you create with all of those knit stitches. So for knit one below, and I'm just sticking my finger here through it so you can really get a good feel for it. So we stick our needle, we insert our needle right into that hole, okay? Right through that stitch below. And then you're gonna knit it as you normally would. And then you're gonna pull it through and just drop it off your needle, okay? So then I'm gonna purl a stitch. I'll do this a couple more times, okay? Purl a stitch. And then here we come to our knit stitch. We wanna do a knit one below. So we don't go into just that knit stitch. We go into that stitch below, insert your needle, knit as usual, and pull the whole thing off your needle. Okay, do it again. I'm gonna purl one because that's the next stitch I have here. And then I'm gonna knit one below. Okay, so that's the knit one below stitch. So I'm gonna go around and I will meet you back here at the start of the next round where I will show you the purl below stitch. Okay, so I completed that round where I was knitting one below and purling, and now I'm gonna show you how to purl below. So it's kind of the same idea, but again, it can be tricky when you're first learning this, so I really just wanted to focus on those two stitches. So I'm at the beginning of my round. I have a knit stitch that we knit below the first one, but now we're going to just knit it so we can get to the purl below. And here we have our first purl stitch. And to purl below, you move your yarn to the front as you would to purl a stitch, okay? And then instead of purling into that stitch as you would do a normal purl, we're going to purl below. So you find that opening again right below that, that bar from your purl stitch, okay? So you insert your needle into that opening and you purl it as you normally would, and make sure you just pull all of that off of your needle, okay? So here we come to a knit stitch, and now we're gonna purl below. So I move my yarn to the front as you normally would to purl, and then I'm gonna find that hole right below the purl stitch, and we're going to purl into that opening. Purl into that, wrap your yarn around and purl as you normally would, let it all fall off your needle. Do it again. Here I'm at a knit stitch, so that's what I'm doing. Wrap your yarn to the front, and then purl below. And the more times you do this, the more normal it'll feel. Purl below, okay? So that is the purl below stitch. And you would just continue on in your pattern. But I just wanted to focus on those two stitches, knit one below and purl one below, to form that nice fisherman's rib. And again, it creates that nice thick fabric. This one I did obviously in 2 colors. You can do it in 2 color, 1 color, but just to give you an idea of how thick and squishy that fabric is, I just love the Fisherman's Rib stitch, and I hope you will too. Thanks so much for watching, and I will see you again hopefully soon. Thank you. Follow me on Instagram at flynnknit to see what I'm working on next.